Tasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namini Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarini He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So welcome to the series of lectures on Bhakti Tattva Vivek, deliberations on pure devotion. We had almost 13 or 12 sessions on the first chapter based on the intrinsic and the extrinsic qualities, characteristics of pure devotion. Anya Bilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadhyanavritam Anukulena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhaktir Uttama. The second chapter of Bhakti Tattva Vivek is Bhakti Abhas. What is Bhakti Abhas? When we don't fulfill the criteria of the Tatastha Lakshan, the secondary characteristics, that is Anya Bilashita Shunyam and Jnana Karmadhyanavritam, then the Bhakti is not Bhakti. When we say Bhakti, we mean Shuddha Bhakti, but it is Abhas Bhakti. It is Abhas Bhakti. And from this Abhas Bhakti, we take up to Bhakti. Again, Bhakti here means unalloyed devotion, Kevala Bhakti or Ananya Bhakti. We begin. Again, in here, we begin with sadhana. With sadhana, we begin with Vaidhi sadhana. And why sadhana? We attain sadhya. Sadhya means bhava bhakti and then prema bhakti. So we go through this transition from abhas bhakti to sadhana bhakti, which is shuddha bhakti, but in sadhana stage, and sadhya bhakti or shuddha bhakti, unalloyed bhava bhakti. So this is the stages we go through. So it is so important that as long as we don't know what is abhas bhakti and we don't know the difference between abhas bhakti and Shuddha Bhakti, then we might be practicing abhasa Bhakti and we'll think that it is Shuddha Bhakti. So that's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur says this is very confidential knowledge. And devotees who really want to take up to pure devotion will appreciate this topic. And that's why he is going to exhaustively detail, in detail, he's going to discuss what is abhasa Bhakti. So we began this discussion in the last 2-3 classes, and we saw that Rupa Goswami is not directly dealt with abhasa Bhakti, but in his definition of Shuddha Bhakti or Uttama Bhakti, he has given the hidden meaning in the first 2 lines, Anyabhilashita Shunyam and Jnana Karmadhya Navratam. Whereas further also, when he speaks about Bhava Bhakti, there he has spoken about Rati Abhas. Rati means Bhava and Abhas means semblance. Semblance. So in that Abhas Bhakti, there is Pratibimba and Chaya. And we quite, just a second. Wait for that. So where were we? That when he is discussing about Rati, Bhava Bhakti, there is something called as Ratyabhas. That is again Abhas only of Rati. So there he has dealt a bit more about Pratibimba and Chaya. And we went into the concept of what is Pratibimba and Chaya. It's an easy concept. Pratibimba is a reflection. The tree's reflection, although the reflection is dependent on the tree, but there is no intrinsic connection. The reflection is a separate entity in one sense. And the shadow has a connection. Of the tree shadow only, there is a connection. So then, after explaining, we went into the details of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bhava Bhakti of Chaya Bhakti, Chaya Ratyabhas and Pratibimba. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in the last class, if you remember, we discussed that within this Pratibimba, Bhakti Abhas, there are 3 divisions. There are 3 divisions. I'll just share the screen. There are these 2 types of Bhakti Abhas, Pratibimba and Chaya. Just like in Bhava Bhakti, there are Pratibimba and Chaya Ratyabhas. Even in Bhakti Abhas, there is Pratibimba and Chaya Bhakti Abhas. And we saw this concept also, if you remember. There is the connection of the shadow with the original tree. So there is a relationship. But here, this is not having any intrinsic connection. It's a separate entity. So we went into the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu discussion quite in detail and came back to the discussion on Pratibimba Bhakti Abhas. And in that, there are 3 different divisions. Nirvishesh Jnanavrit Bhakti Abhas. That is the Bhakti Abhas which is covered by impersonal Jnana. This is quite simple to know. If there is pursuit with the practice of Bhakti, even for impersonal liberation, then there is Jnanavrit. There is avaran happening because of Gyan. And this Gyan is Nirvishesh Gyan. But there is Gyan even in Bhakti. We hear Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. That time, that is Savishesh Gyan. And it is Anavrit. It becomes Anavrit. There is no avaran happening. So we discussed in the last class, if we remember, that it is Nirvishesh Gyanavrit Bhakti Abhas, which quite in detail we discussed. So I will now go to Bahirmukh Karmavrit Bhakti Abhas. Now this is a little important for the devotees to understand, because generally devotees who come with a bona fide come to a bona fide organization like ISKCON and come in touch with devotees and take up to devotion, the tendency for impersonal Gyan definitely is not there. He might be coming from a Gyan background. Very rarely such Gyanis come in touch with pure devotees and take up. So the lingering of is there and tendency is there, but very rare it is. But this avaran, karma avaran, happens because of the unlimited impressions in the subtle body. So this is very important for us as devotees to understand. So we will go in detail today into the Bahirmukh Karmavrit Bhakti Abhas. Okay, so now let us go into this. Any questions up till now? If you have any doubts, you can, before we start this. Any questions, any clarifications? Yes. Virendra Yadav Prabhuji, yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dhanvatnam. Prabhu, when we were discussing the first one, that is Nirvishesh Gyanavrit Bhakti Abhas. In that, Prabhu, while showing the presentation, last sentence of the PPT, that section, just if you can show just once, Prabhu.
Okay, 1 second. I'll share the screen. Okay, this is the first one, Nirvishesh.
Last.
Second. Yeah.
Here, Prabhu, this second last Prabhu. But when they lack the association of such devotee, they deride the tears and trembling of their own disciples as fraud or cheating. This sentence I'm not able to understand.
Okay, let us go through again. Even though in the process of hearing and chanting conducted by the impersonalist, the disease of the desires for sense gratification and liberation exists. So I was explaining, if you all remember, that there are many organizations of the impersonal school, and dry philosophical discussion doesn't give any pleasure to the heart. So they also engage in kirtan. They engage in kirtan, and in that kirtan, if you observe them also, they're taking so much pleasure in the kirtan. It looks like in any other bona fide temple, there is Harinam Sankirtan going on. So they take a lot of pleasure, but in their heart there is a desire for what? Especially mukti. They still feel a little pleasure in their hearts from their performance of Shravan. They feel pleasure. So we see that. We see that they feel pleasure. If at such a time, by some good fortune, they obtain the association of a pure devotee of Bhagavan, then by the effect of that association, the bhava that has arisen like the moon in the sky of the hearts of the pure devotees is reflected even in their hearts. So the pure devotees have pure bhava in their heart, and that reflects onto these impersonalists. It reflects onto these impersonalists. But these impersonalist heart is contaminated by impersonal conception. Such an occurrence can sometimes cause a little ecstasy and shedding tears. When these impersonalists come in touch with pure devotees, what happens? They experience some ecstasies, some trembling. So when these impersonalists experience these symptoms, it's not that these are real symptoms of bhava. No, it is just abhas, because of their contamination of impersonalism. This is only a mere abhas. Rati abhas it is. It is not real rati. And this is happening not because of their own sadhana, which they are performing in bhakti, because they are impersonalist. It is because of just coming in touch with pure devotees. Now, when again they lack the association of such a devotee, so then that devotee, pure devotee, has left. They deride the tears and trembling of their own disciples as fraud or cheating. So even, they with their disciples, when they come in touch with a pure devotee and they experience this ecstasy, which is completely not of this world, but still because of, deep rooted impressions for moksha kam, they just don't give value to these abhas, ratyabhas, which they have experienced. So that is the point being made. And if you remember, I told the story from the Jaiva Dharma novel, how this Varanasi sannyasi was from the Mayavad Sampradaya. He had studied the Shad Darshan, traveled all the holy places for the last 30 years. He was in the strict renounced order of life. And he just happened to see from his bhajan kutir a pure premi bhakta, calling out, "Hey Govinda, hey Radhe," and just falling on the ground. And just having his darshan, he felt a surge of ecstasy in his heart, and he could not fathom, what is this? I have never experienced such bliss even by 30 years of practicing in this sampradaya. What is this? So he wanted to meet him, but he had little reservation. He did not, how can I'm a sannyasi, how can I meet? So he did not meet, but that impressions had effect on him, and later on he started inquiring, and then somehow he went to Navdeep and met a bona fide guru and inquired, and then he got himself converted into a Vaishnava sannyasi later on. So usually the impersonalist will deride these symptoms what they experienced, and because they are mokshakami, they continue. That's why the mokshakamis are difficult to come to the path of bhakti compared to the sarvakami. That was what we concluded in our last discussion. I hope it is clear now.
Yes, bro. Thank you, bro. Thank you very much.
Yes. So any other questions now? So the Nirvishesh Jnanavrata Bhakti Abhas is quite simple and clear. Now the next one is very important. Bahirmukh Karmavrit Bhakti Abhas. Now this we'll have to carefully understand, and it's very important for us as devotees to understand this. Among the three, the second one is the most important for us. In Bahirmukh Karmavrit Bhakti Abhas, a blockage comprised of an external covering of fruitive activity is produced by the secondary tendency, Gauna Vritti of Bhakti. So every statement of Bhaktivinoda Thakur has to be understood. Now, I have to draw something, then only I think things will become clear. let me see whether it is possible. Give me a second. Let me open a file to. We have our subtle body, and in the subtle body, there are unlimited impressions. And these impressions are in the form of desires. And these desires impel us to do actions. And these actions, impelled by desires, is what we call as still not able to work on this. Okay, I'll just explain, because I'm still not used to using the digital pad. So we have the soul, then we have the subtle body, and in the subtle body there are impressions and desires, vasanas, and based on this desires we do actions, swabhav, we call it as swabhav. So what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying here is that when we do these, this is the gaunavritti, because of the gaunavritti. So when we do that karma, what happens? There is a avran, cover avran happening. And this avran is happening because of karma. And this karma is what? Based on our sabhava. Sabhava is in our subtle body. And this is the gaunavritti. So you do karma, and then after doing karma, you do arpanam. Then it becomes karma arpanam. So this is because of what? Bahirmukh karmavrit bhakti abhasa. This is the blockage which happens. So the subtle body covers the soul's propensity naturally to love and serve Krishna. But what happens is the impressions in the subtle body by which we are impelled to act. And when we do those actions, then there is the karma avran happening. So that is the point being made by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I hope it is clear. Any questions on this? Of course, when we studied the Anya Bilashita Shunyam verse, we did a lot of exercise also. Jnana Karmadi Anavratam, Karma Avran, we discussed that. So those who have attended that, they will be clear about it also. Yes, Virendra Yadav Prabhuji.
Prabhu, this desires, what we are discussing, is it different from what we refer Anya Bhilashita Sunyam? It is, I think it is overlapping, it seems.
Pardon, come again, your question.
Prabhu, when we say Anya Bhilashita Sunyam, and here also this actions are based on desire and subha. So is it, I mean, is it falling in gambit of Anya Bhilashita Sunyam, or it is karma avran?
No. I'm not getting clearly what you want to state.
Prabhu, when we say Anya Bhilashita Sunyam, there
Anya
also
Abhilashita, when you say Anya Abhilashita Shunyam, that means in the subtle body there are no desires only.
there are no desires, yes. There are no
Because
desires.
see, Anya Abhilashita Shunyam, when we say, that means no other desire except the exclusive desire to please Krishna. So then that means this desire is of the desire of the soul.
Right.
Desire of the soul. Now when we have desire, I desire to eat pizza. So I desire to eat pizza. This desire is coming from my conditioning, because I'm born in maybe a European country and I'm conditioned to it. I'm just giving an example. Don't take it otherwise. And I like pizzas. Krishna is not saying that I like pizzas. Krishna says patram pushpam phalam tuvam. This is pure devotional service. Krishna desires, you just offer me a fruit or a flower or a leaf. So when we act according to Krishna's desire to please Krishna, then it is amnya bilashita shunyam. But when we act according to our desire means now it is the subtle body conditioning's desire, sabhava. It is gone vritti. Then there is a blockage happening because of the karma. It is karma. We are doing karma now. But when we, go to the garden and pick up a flower and then walk to the temple, all these actions, what we are doing, these actions are bhakti. Karma,
Right.
anavritam is happening. But now because of the desire for pizza, I take my bike, go to the market, purchase all these things, and then cook, and then offer. So when I am doing all these actions are not bhakti. These are karma. And doing this karma and then you offer it to Krishna, it is karma arpanam. So it's not Shuddha bhakti. It is Mishra bhakti. Got the point?
Right. Understood.
Yes. It's very important now. So two verses from the Gita, 9.26 and 27. 26 is Shuddha bhakti, patram pushpam, and then yad karoshi, yad jivoshi, yad ashnasi, tat kurusva madarpanam. Yes, madarpanam. You do whatever you like to do, but do it as an offering to me. Then it is not pure devotion, sir. It is as if a curtain of fruitive activity is present between the relisher, the living entity, and that which is to be relished, bhakti. So there is a avaran, eclipsing, covering, curtain is there. That's what. This curtain covers the intrinsic nature of bhakti. So what is that covering? One sense, what is actually that covering? What is that covering? Who will answer this? What is that covering? What is that covering? I'll only ask, no, I don't know. I want others also to participate. Yes. Dr. Archana Mataji, what do you think is that covering?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat. Could you repeat the question again, please?
What is that? There is a curtain which is covering, it is mentioned. What exactly is that covering then? What is it?
The previous context I would like to know. We are talking about the curtains between.
So this, when there is a, the Bahirmukh karma avritva, there's a blockage because of the external covering of the karma, which is
Yes.
because of the gaunavritti. The gaunavritti is the sabhava. And because of this, what happens? You're not able to relish. You're not able, there is a curtain between the relisher and relished. So this curtain is covers the sarupa or the intrinsic nature of bhakti. So what is this curtain is my question. What is this?
We must be talking about desires.
Yes, exactly. It is the desires. So when the mother serves the child out of pure love, without any expectation, it's completely selfless. There's no desire, no expectation. Then there is a higher relishment. But the same thing when the mother is not there and the mother has employed a nurse to take care of the child. The child is very beautiful. The nurse has also love and affection for the child, but there is no selflessness there because she's paid. So that relishment, what the nurse can have in the reciprocation with the child, there is a kind of a covering curtain, and that curtain is because there is selfish desire. She's ultimately employed, she has something to gain. So similarly, when there is this curtain, then we cannot relish that bhakti, intrinsic nature of bhakti. So that is the point being made. I hope it is clear. Anytime you can ask questions, because this is very important for us to understand. Pursuing the path of mystic yoga and strictly adhering to the occupational duties corresponding to one's caste and stage of life, varna, ashrama, dharma, are both classified as karma. So if one, based on one's swabhava, there is swabhava. Swabhava now, I'm referring to the conditioned, subtle body conditioning. Some might have sattvic impressions. Of course, there's always a combination. Sattvic vasanas, and he is inclined to study Shastra, Patan, Patan, Yajan. So he's a Brahmana. So based on his Swabhava, he's doing his Swakarma, doing Yagyas and all. And he is following the Dharma, whatever is given in the Dharma Shastras, the Sattvic karmas. The Kshatriya, he has a Sabhav, and his qualities are mentioned in the Gita in the 18th chapter. And he has a Swadharma. He has got his Swabhav. He's inclined to, fight. He likes Dhanurveda. So he is following the Kshatriya Dharma. So he's got his scriptures. So there are different scriptures for based on the different Swabhavas. So based on Varna and even the status of life, Ashrama, there are, many such Dharma Shastras. At least there are 20 different categories in it. So one who is strictly adhering to the occupational duties and based on Varna Ashram, they are all what? There is Avran happening. But interestingly, pursuing the path of even mystic yoga means here Ashtanga yoga. Even that is considered as karma. Interesting. How is it that even Ashtanga yoga is also considered as karma? Who will answer this? After many years also, even I understood it. So, yeah, it's okay. Archana Mataji, yes?
It's just a wild guess, Prabhuji. I mean, in Ashtanga Yoga, we follow 8 steps. Yam, Yam, Asam, Pranayam, Pratyahara, Dhyana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. So there is a wish for achieving the Samadhi. So there is desire, personal desire of being into Samadhi, abhasa.
Liberation.
Liberation.
Yeah. So that'll, yes, you're very close to it, very close, quite close to the answer. Anyone else would like to try how Ashtanga yoga process is also karma avran? We might think Ashtanga yoga is, how it is coming in the world of karma avran. Anyone else? Any thoughts? Lata Mataji?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dandavat. Maybe they are not offering their fruits of the result and they depend on their own endeavor. Maybe because of that. Because they want something, no? They are just, they are working on a goal. They want to attain liberation.
Again, I'll make my question clear. Ashtanga yoga is also classified as a karma yoga process. Just like Varnashram, those who are practicing Varnashram, they are in karma yoga path. So similarly, Ashtanga yoga is karma yoga. How is Ashtanga yoga also karma yoga path? Is my question.
They are also, they are not doing selflessly, no, Prabhu. They are also doing the activity to attain something, to attain liberation, maybe.
Yes, it's quite close. Yes, still. Yes, Dr. Chinamataji.
Prabhuji, while doing Ashtanga Yoga, then the sadhaka will definitely bestowed with siddhis. So maybe because of siddhis also, that could be one thought.
Okay. Quite good wild guesses and quite close. So If you see the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the division of the 18 chapters of the Gita is what? First 6 chapters are Karma Yoga, middle 6 chapters are Bhakti Yoga, last 6 chapters are Jnana Yoga. So, one way to understand is that how Karma Yoga ultimately leads to Bhakti Yoga. Without Bhakti, even Karma Yoga cannot give its results. How Jnana Yoga leads to Bhakti. That's why Bhakti is in the middle. So without an element of Bhakti within the Jnana practice, will not yield the results of Jnana Yoga, and ultimately Jnana Yoga leads to Bhakti. So that's how Bhakti is superior. That's why Bhakti is in the middle. Now, interestingly, Karma Yoga is chapters 1 to 6. And the 6th chapter is Dhyana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. So Ashtanga Yoga also comes within Karma Yoga. It comes within Karma Yoga. So this is the verse in the Gita for us to understand. Aruruksha munir yogam karma karana muchyate. One who begins the Ashtanga Yoga process in the beginning, the eightfold Ashtanga Yoga, karma, he is doing actions. So just like for Bhakti yogis, the actions are, Archana, we are doing deity worship. There are actions we are doing. So, but these karmas are not Karma Yoga. It is directly Bhakti Yoga. So similarly, there are some actions. They do some actions, karma, in the beginning stages of yoga. So that is why it is classified as Karma Yoga. So yoga rudasya, but one who goes to the higher stages, Shamakaranam Uchyate, then he has to stop work. In the Jnana Yoga, also by practicing Nishkama Karma Yoga, once he becomes Sthita Pragya, then he has to give up action. In the path of Jnana, he has to give up action and become inactive, and then practice, meditation on Brahman by studying of the Upanishads, Niti. Because action means it will have reaction. So that's why, they don't act in this world. But it's not possible like that. That's why it's a difficult path, the path of Jnana Yoga. So in the beginning stages of the Ashtanga Yoga, there is, action. So the yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, all these are actions. So these actions, what the Ashtanga Yogi is doing, there is karma avaran happening. So this is the point. That is why they are classified as karma. Both. I hope this point is clear. Any questions or clarifications you have about it? Okay. Yes, Virendra Yadav Prabhuji.
Prabhu, this avarana of Ashtanga Yoga process, is it different from Yoga Mishra Bhakti?
No, it is not different. It is Yoga Mishra. There is Mishran, so there is Avaran happening because of the karma in the Ashtanga Yoga. It's Mishra.
Mishra, Yoga Mishra.
It's Mishra. Now the Mishran can be, within the karma path, there is Bhakti Mishra Yoga. Yoga is pronounced and there is a little element of Bhakti. So that is dealt in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And there is Yoga Mishra Bhakti, which is the 8th chapter of the Gita. Whereas Bhakti is also predominant with the element of Yoga. So there is, in both the cases, there is Avaran because of Yoga, mystic process Yoga. There is Avaran, and that's why they are classified as karma. I hope it is clear.
Yes, please. Okay.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhu, can you explain this again? I'm not able to understand.
Explain what? Which point?
This how Ashtanga Yoga is also classified as comes under Karma. You said like it is coming the first 6 chapter. The last
so
chapter
first
is
6 chapters, the first 6. Yeah, the first 6 chapters are Karma Yoga. The first 6 chapters are Karma Yoga. So Ashtanga Yoga is coming in Karma Yoga. But to prove that, I showed the verse from the Gita, Arurukshor Munir Yoga, Karma Karana Chate. So karma, they are doing karma. To go in the higher stages from the beginning to up till a certain stage in the Ashtanga Yoga practice, there is action. They are into action. They are doing action. So if you are doing action, it is karma. So that's why it is falling in the Karma Yoga category. Is it clear?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you.
Yeah. It takes some time also for us to understand, and when we reread and study it, then things become more clear. When I first came across this statement, it took me quite a long time to digest it and understand it. So it takes some time. But now we are clear that both this Mystic Yoga and Varnashram, both are, classified as karma. Now Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going into more in the details of the Varnashram karma. Karma is of two types: Nitya, activities performed regularly, that is like the Sandhya Vandana, and Naimitik, activities performed occasionally. So based on like Chaturmas comes, then you start performing some vratas, strict vratas, in order to attain heavenly planets or whatever it is, or in order to other reasons also might be there. So they are Naimitika. All actions that result in piety are considered karma, fruitive activity. So when you do action, that action yields a reaction. That reaction is what? Pious reaction. You do action which is sinful, it will give you a sinful reaction, papa. So these karma will ultimately yield you what? Punya. And this Bhaktivinoda Thakur and other acharyas, Vishwanacharya Thakur, use a terminology, a particular terminology. Anyone knows that terminology? Anyone knows the terminology? What terminology they use? Anyone knows? Karma Utta Sukruti, Jnanutta Sukruti, and Bhakti Utta Sukruti. So Karma Utta Sukruti means, Utta means born out of Karma Sukruti. So these are pious. And Jnanutta Sukruti means when one starts associating with Jnanis, then you will have inclination to Jnana path. And because of the sadhu sang of the Jnanis, then you'll attain that kind of Sukruti. But if one associates with pure devotees and does without knowledge some devotional act, he feeds a sadhu or offers obeisances, so then you will get Bhakti Utta Sukruti, which is called as Agyat Sukruti. And this Agyat Sukruti will fructify after many lifetimes into Shraddha. And then we will take up to association of sadhus and start practicing the process of bhakti. So this is Karma Utta Sukruti. So all these actions result in piety are considered karma, fruitive activity. A detailed explanation of karma here would greatly enlarge this presentation. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur doesn't give a detailed explanation. Those who specifically want to understand the concept of karma may read the initial pages of my book, Sri Chaitanya Shikshamrit. So this is the recommendation. Yes, Dr. Archana Mataji. Yeah, I knew that a lot of questions will come in today's class. And it's good, very interesting. Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, if we are talking about Naimitic karma, so we follow Ekadashi Vrata, knowingly or
that is,
unknowingly.
no,
So that
Ekadasi
comes under
Vrata.
Punya.
No, Ekadasi Vrata is part of Anga of Bhakti.
Okay.
It is among the 64 limbs of Bhakti, it is coming. And even if unknowingly you perform Ekadasi Vrata, not knowing, suppose you were traveling and you did not get any food and whole day you fasted, you did not know that it was a Ekadasi, still you will get the benefit of Ekadasi. You have done Ekadasi Vrata. And we all know the pastime of Prahlad Maharaj, how he became such an exalted, pure soul. In his previous life, he had fought with a prostitute. He was waiting for her, and waiting, entire day passed away, and he had fasted. And that was a Ekadasi day. So that was a benefit he got. He got the benefit of Ekadasi.
What
So that
about
was unknowingly he had performed the Ekadasi Vrat. So knowingly you perform with devotion, then it has more, you get more Bhakti Sukruti in that. So knowingly or unknowingly, if you perform any of the Angas of Bhakti, Bhakti will give the results. That is the glory of Bhakti.
and what about fasting done on Prakat Din of Guruji say Gaur Purnima had
Pardon?
happened? So if we fast on Gaur Purnima or any other day, so that fast is considered as a karma?
No. These are all festivals related to the Lord, and all are coming under the limbs of devotion. The Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, there are 64 limbs of devotion given. And one of them is observing fast on festivals. So it is directly, knowingly or unknowingly, if you perform this activity, you will get Bhakti Sukruti only. Is it clear?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Yes, Lata Mataji, you had a question?
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhu, you have said all action that leads to piety is called karma. So, but when you are explaining if we do something bad, we will get bad reaction. Then that is big karma, right, Prabhu? That doesn't come under karma.
Yeah,
that is big
See,
karma.
when now Bhaktivinoda Thakur uses here actions, karma, he means actions based on varnashram. Are you getting this point? When he uses the word actions, here this statement has to be understood from the previous statement. Karma here is nityanamik. Nityanamitik karmas are based on varnashram. So varnashram actions, whatever are done, they are pious actions. So you'll get pious reactions. I hope this point is clear.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, Birendra Yadav Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhu, this karma ukta sukriti, does it have any connection with culmination of bhakti? I mean, has any connection?
Absolutely no connection.
No connection. Yes,
Bhakti cannot, by karma cannot give rise to bhakti. Bhakti is transcendental. Something which is material, it is material.
Right,
only it is more pious. That's it.
So it is only bhakti ukta sukrit, that is association of devotees.
Yes. Only bhakti ukta are all related to anything with the Lord, the devotees, the dham, anything connection. All these are bhakti utsukrutis.
Right.
Okay, fine. Yeah. So those who want to know more of the concept of karma, they should read the introduction, initial pages of Chaitanya Shikshamrit. The process of karma delineated in the books of the Smriti Brahmanas as is all superficial activity. Activities such as Sandhya Vandana, prayers to be recited daily at dusk, that are suitable for proper execution of one's varnashram duties and that are mentioned in the books of the Smartas are all called Nitya Karma, daily routine duties. So a little more detail about what is Nitya duties which the Brahmanas perform during in their varnashram. You can see some remnants of it, in especially these traditional Brahmanas, especially in South India. They have their morning, they do their Sandhya Vandana and then they recite some stotras, this, that, about how somebody attained heaven, some stories from the Puranas, all that. Every day they do that, Nitya Karmas. So these are Nitya Karmas. The smartas consider the performance of these daily activities to be bhakti. Please mark this point. So the karma what they perform, they think it is bhakti. So what is this now? This is, we had discussed this if you remember. There is karma, avran. Their karma is getting covered, eclipsed. That's why it is not bhakti. If you have a conception that I'm doing my karma based on my svabhava, and that itself is devotion, then you're in a misconception. So the misconceptions have to be completely eradicated. Yet, an in-depth review of all these activities will reveal that they are superficial. The symptoms of bhakti that are visible in them are due merely to pratibhim bhakti abhas and not real bhakti. So whatever symptoms of bhakti you see, they are not real bhakti, but they are abhas bhakti, and specifically pratibhimba bhakti abhas. This is because the desired fruit of these activities is either the attainment of impersonal revelation, or the pleasure of this world, or the heavenly worlds. Because there is that curtain of desires, heavenly pleasure or worldly pleasure, or at the most, impersonal liberation. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur brings up the difference now between karma and sadhana bhakti appear similar but are different. Now, please hear this statement and try to understand. Many people believe that hearing and chanting in bhakti are actually karma. Hearing and chanting in bhakti are actually karma. So, if you are hearing and chanting, if you are chanting the holy names, if you are hearing the kirtan, and you think that this is karma because of misconception, then there is karma avran happening. So I was in Govardhan, Mansi Ganga, and I had gone to take the darshan of Mansi Devi, and the pujari happened to be from, had stayed in the hometown where the base I belong to. So he became very friendly with me, and he told that I am born and brought up in Brahmana family, and I've lived throughout my life in Braj, but I served in the military and for many years, and after retirement I have come back to Braj, and I've been serving these deities. These are our family deities. Our entire family takes care of these deities. So he was reading some scriptures, reciting some scriptures, and interestingly he had his chanting beads, and he was chanting also. And asked him, what are you chanting? He said, I'm chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. I was surprised. Oh, very nice, I said. But interestingly, in my discussions with him over a period of time, he said that ultimately, this is my karma. Karmanyeva adhikaraste. He quoted this. And I am doing this chanting and doing and offering this to the Lord Krishna only. So he did not know that that very act of chanting the holy names itself is bhakti. There is no need to offer it. The act itself is bhakti. So if you're not having that right knowledge, the right understanding, the right conception, then there is an avaran which can happen. So what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying here, I have practically seen it, seen examples. So many people believe that hearing and chanting in bhakti are actually karma. So then there is karma avaran happening. On the other hand, others believe that hearing and chanting of the karma yoga process to be bhakti. So as I mentioned, you can go to some yoga institutes in South India where they teach yoga, and in the evening they do kirtan and they chant the holy names. They're chanting the holy names of the Lord only. And this chanting, they think it is bhakti. So again, there is karma avaran happening in both these cases. So both this we had again dealt when we had discussed pure devotion definition. These misconceptions are caused by their ignorance of the proper philosophical conception. So we need to have a very clear philosophical conception. 90% of our job is done if we understand the philosophical conception. It is like throwing a light in the dark, and the whole pathway gets illuminated for us. Then we can easily walk through. So because of not having a clear philosophical conception of the definition of pure devotion and having so many other misconceptions, still there are doubts. And that's why the more we practice devotion with knowledge and understanding through these bhakti literatures, the more swiftly we can progress in spiritual life. Although externally they appear to be many similarities between the process of karma yoga and sadhana bhakti, there exists a fundamental difference between them. Whatever action, karma, is performed to attain mundane happiness in this world or in the heavenly worlds is called karma. This happiness is classified as either sense gratification or relief from suffering in the form of impersonal liberation. So even devotees, if they have a desire to, become free from the cycle of birth and death, and they practice their sadhana intensely, I want to become free. I don't want to take another material body. This material world is a miserable. There's birth, death, old age, disease. So I don't want another material body. I want to become free from suffering. In a subtle way, there is, desire for liberation. In a subtle way. And if you're practicing your sadhana with this kind of understanding, then it is still not coming in the category of Shuddha Bhakti. We should have this clear understanding. Yes, Birendra Yadav Prabhuji.
So this impersonal liberation will fall in first category or it is rightly placed nirvises jnana.
No, you see, there is, you have to have a subtle distinction between the two. One is when somebody pursues the path of Gyan to attain liberation. The other is somebody is in the path of Bhakti, but there are certain subtle desires in the form of becoming free from the cycle of birth and death, becoming free from suffering. So there are certain tendencies to become liberated from suffering, liberated from disease, liberated from all this material body. So their subtle tendencies are there. And that subtle tendencies also one should be free. So I'll give you some practical examples. So there's one devotee who's very close to me, known to me. He's been every day coming to the Mangalarti without fail. And, he sits very attentively, he chants. And whenever I discuss with him, he tells me, Prabhuji, please pray to the Lord that in this life only I should go back. I should become free from this samsar, mrityu samsar. So in one sense, there is a desire for liberation, if you see. There is a desire for liberation. Another very close friend of mine, he told me his experience. He's been practicing devotion. And he told me that he suddenly had some health issue and 5 days he was in the ICU. And when he came out of the ICU, he was in a semi-state of consciousness and he was going through extreme pain. In that state, he was just praying, oh Lord, please just liberate me from the suffering. And then, after he got discharged, then he reflected, how could I pray like this to the Lord? I wanted to become free from suffering. So it was an anartha, I could understand it. So in the form of subtle desires, the gross desires are karma desires in the form of pleasures, gross pleasures, but there are subtle desires even for the kind to become liberated from, gross kind of liberations and subtle. Gross liberations, I want to, go to another place where the weather is very nice. I want to get liberated from this extreme heat and cold. I want to get liberated from this, this disease state which I'm going through. So like that, there are again subtler and subtler desires within liberation. So we are speaking about all that, not the path of Gyan Yoga, where the goal itself is for liberation. Is it clear?
Got the point. Got the point. No, thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. On the other hand, bhakti is the action performed with absorption in those sentiments which only help to increase our natural inborn inclination for love of Krishna, and where the performer has no other desire whatsoever. Clear-cut statement. And I hope it is very clear. What is the bhakti? It's a karma action. This action is performed with full absorption with the bhava to attain what? More love for the Lord. All this action is done and the performer has no other desire whatsoever. This is pure devotion. Though there are incidental results like material gain or liberation, liberation is a byproduct of bhakti. By the performance of such activity, again I have put this in the bracket bhakti, these are considered insignificant. Moksha lagutakrit. So we become free from suffering by practicing Shuddha Bhakti. Kleshagni happens, but we don't much give importance to it. Suffering come or doesn't come, I just continue to please my Lord. Those acts which nourish unalloyed devotion are also considered bhakti, because bhakti is the cause of bhakti. The process of jnana and karma can never be capable of producing bhakti. We'll just conclude this discussion. By devotional acts and association, one can understand the difference between karma and bhakti. Now, how do we understand this difference between karma and bhakti? How? By devotional acts and association. My dear intimate devotees, you cannot satisfy the people engaged in gross activities by presenting them before them this subtle difference between karma yoga and bhakti. Because both are actions, they are done, but internal, the intention we have to see. Only when their faith in the process of karma and jnana dwindles by the accumulation of heaps of pious activities. Now here, heaps of pious activities refers to bhakti sukruti. So I want to give you this example in Bhagavad Gita. Esham tu antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam. So their punya karmanam refers to acts of devotion. Or Shrunotam Sakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana. So this shravana kirtan is punya, but this punya is bhakti utta punya. And by the effects of association with pure devotees of Bhagavan, will the seedling of undeveloped bhakti appear in their hearts in the form of faith. Undeveloped bhakti, it is still in the undeveloped stage. There is sukriti being accumulated, and then there will be shraddha in the form of the seed. Then that is, slowly, then it will happen. Unless in possession of such faith, no one can understand the subtle difference between karma yoga and bhakti. We should understand that if someone thinks that bhakti is simply another form of karma, then he won't be able to relish the transcendental sentiments, bhava, of unalloyed devotion, uttama bhakti in his heart. The difference between bitter and sweet can be distinguished only by tasting them, not by reasoning. After actually tasting them, it becomes much easier to consider and then determine which of them is superior. Those inclined towards karma yoga sometimes dance, tremble, and shed tears while chanting the holy name. But all of this is a mere reflection of bhakti, not Shuddha Bhakti. It is the result of their previous good fortune of having associated with devotees, as described in the verses quoted previously, such as Daivat Sad Bhakta Sangena. This was the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu verse. They come in association with devotees. Their trembling and shedding of tears are just symptoms produced by sensual pleasure and are considered as mere reflections, pratibimba only. So sometimes, we might go to Nam Sankirtan and the public might join and the public might dance and feel ecstasy, but they're still sensuous. We can understand. They have got some sukriti of association and hearing the kirtan from the devotees. But these symptoms are not real pure symptoms of bhava. They are pratibimba. At such times, they are immersed in thoughts of heavenly pleasure or absorbed in an imaginary ocean of pleasure derived from liberation. So they are doing those acts and experiencing something because they are trying to, gain pleasure for themselves. But bhakti means to give pleasure to the Lord. So that is purely selfless. This is pratibimba bhakti abhas. So the third one is viparita vastu bhakti buddhi janita bhakti abhas. This is very simple. Looks a huge terminology. Arising from thinking of bhakti in a mistaken way. Viparita vastu. So this also, for us, likelihood is we'll not fall trap to this and this also. But bhairbhuk karmavrit bhakti abhas we should clearly understand. Okay, so I also had thought that today we'll be only able to discuss this karmavrit bhairbhuk bhakti abhas, and we're able to finish this discussion today. So in the next class, we will take up the third one and start with Chaya Bhakti abhas. Yes, Mataji, you have a question?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Actually, if we desire to go to Bhagavad Dham and to do the divine seva, that is also karma avrit. Actually, we think just that Maya is so powerful. If we get the next birth, then we can fall in Maya. That's why we are thinking like that. So how is it? Please, can you explain?
The principal thing what we should know is that what we need to do, whether we go back to the spiritual world or no, that is not in our hand. It is not in our hand. It's ultimately in Krishna's hand. And in fact, wherever one is practicing pure devotion, spiritual world is present. So these are like I'm showing you this verse, Bhagavad Gita 12.6 and 7. Yetu sarvani karmani mayi sanyasya matpara. Now these actions are done for Krishna. So it is bhakti without desiring any fruit. How? Ananyeva yogena. Ananya bhakti. Mam dhyayanto upasate. Complete meditation on me, Krishna is saying. So we have to make sure that we practice Ananya Bhakti. Then Krishna will decide, Tesham aham samudarta. Krishna will say, I will take you from the cycle of birth and death, mrityu samsara sagar. When? Bhavami na chirat pata. Why? Because maya avishita chetasam. His consciousness is, his mind is what? Fixed in me. So practice of Ananya Bhakti is important for us. This is what we need to do. And this is how Krishna will reciprocate. If we are thinking about this, that means we are still thinking, we have control, that we can go back to Godhead. No, we cannot go back to Godhead. Krishna can take us back to Godhead. So all these subtle tendencies we should be free from. And there is in the Damodar Ashtakam, Satyavrat Muni's prayers. We should study those prayers. Varam deva moksham na moksham vadim va nachanyam vrineham vareshadapeha idam teva purnata gopala balam sada me manasya virasta kimannim. Varam Deva. You can give any benediction. Varam Deva Moksham. Liberation. Ya Moksham Vadimba. So here moksha is impersonal, you can say, but moksha vadi means all the 4 types of liberation, which are favorable. Sarupya, Samipya, Salokya, Shashti. I don't want that. Satyavratuni is saying. Are, Krishna is saying, come to my Vaikuntha planet. Stay with me in my association. No, I don't want. Satyavratuni. And what do you want, Baba? Idam teva purnat gopala balam. I want to see this Gopal form, Sadame Manasya. In my heart, I want to see this Bal Gopal form performing wonderful pastimes in Vrindavan. Kim manne, what else other benediction? So there Sanatan Goswami in his commentary mentions that superior to Vaikuntha is the 9-fold angas of bhakti. Because wherever a devotee is practicing bhakti, whether it is on earth or heaven or hell, yadr gayanti mad bhakta tatra tishtami narada. The spiritual world is there. So there's no question for him to go there. He's already there in that consciousness. So that's why we have to have this clear understanding and practice devotion. I hope it is clear, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Actually, it's okay. And my second question is that just हमें जैसे हम अब बताए कि हमको कर्म फल भगवान को ही हमको अर्पण करना है. तो but we do the material activities.
No. When you do karma and then offer, then that doesn't fall in the category of Shuddha Bhakti. We have to understand. I have not said that, we have to do karma and then offer it to Bhagwan. Then, I have not said that. It is mixed bhakti. It will become mixed bhakti.
No, you are not saying. Actually, mixed bhakti. But what I'm saying is we are not following the Shuddha Bhakti. We are doing mixed Bhakti only. तो just मतलब बताए कि हमको कर्मफल भगवान को मतलब ये देना है, but we do also the material activities, how can offer it to Lord also. तो मतलब how can
I'm not clear about the question. What you have to be specific, you cannot give a general answer. What exactly saying? You have to be very clear about it. What exactly you're saying? What material activity we are speaking of?
मतलब हम जैसे हम लोग गृहस्थ में तो हमको कुछ सोशल फंक्शन शादी में भी जाना पड़ता है एक रेगुलर, ऐसे भी कुछ होता है तो ऐसे हम लोग जो भी मतलब
I have answered these questions. I have answered in the last time discussion. It was answered in Anya Bileshatavas. So all these activities which we do, if we, based on our conception, what is the conception? It is very important. If we have a conception that, this action itself is bhakti, then there is avaran happening. And I do it so not to disturb them. And I be a part of it, then it will not have any avaran. I don't have faith in those activities, then there is no avaran happening. So there is no activity which will not come under the jurisdiction of Shuddha Bhakti. So we have to have that clear understanding. So understanding the definition of pure devotion is very important for us. Although we might be not at that level, but once we have a clear understanding, then our path becomes very smooth. Okay, any other clarifications? Any other questions anyone has? Yes, Birendra Yadav Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. This verse you mentioned, Yetu Sarvani Karmadi. Is it true? Karmadi, is it referring to, Varnashram duties or?
No. Yetu Sarvani Karmani, that's why I told you, it's Mayi. All the actions are done for me. So it's Bhakti.
So it is not karma arpana, definitely. It is
No,
pure,
it's directly bhakti. All actions are done for only for Krishna.
right.
Directly
Direct
bhakti.
action. Direct action.
Yes. That's why
Thank you.
you see, you are doing an action of running around to collect the flowers for the deity worship. Ye tu sarvani karmani, but you are doing for whom? For Krishna. So it's act of bhakti only. Yes?
Yes. Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Yes, there is one more hand raised. The last question. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, in chapter 12 Bhagavad Gita, Krishna was from, if I'm not wrong, 8 to 12 or 8 to 11. The progressive stages of bhakti is there, no? Where Krishna says,
Yes.
fix
8
the
to 12.
mind.
Yes.
Fix the mind. If not, then work for me, or means like offer your results. So
Yes.
if someone is following that process, means if he's not able to fix the mind on the Lord, then when they do all those things, the time will come, then they'll be able to fix the mind on the Lord. It's like that they'll be able to achieve the Shuddha Bhakti.
Yes. So there is a sequence, and it is a long discussion which we cannot go into now. It's out of context also from the subject what we're discussing. But I'll just in few minutes brief. Mayeva manadhyastva mayi buddhim nivashaya nivashyasi mameva ata urdhvam na samshayam. The mind, is fixed on Krishna. The intelligence resides in Krishna. It's always applied in Krishna. The subtle body is completely pure. So he is actually residing in Krishna. So there is no doubt that he will attain the Lord. He's already residing in the Krishna. In his mind and intelligence, Krishna resides. So Krishna is also residing in him. So in his heart, already Krishna is there. So there is no question of going back to Godhead. He's already in that consciousness, Vrindavan consciousness. So Prabhupada gives a hint about in the purport. Now, if you're not at this level, the mind wanders. Chittam na samadhatum. Chitta is not fixed in me. Shaknosi stiram nahi hai. Then what? Practice abhyas. There, Krishna doesn't say that you will attain me. You will develop a desire to attain me, he says. So from here, when the chit will get purified, then you will come to this level. And then only you will be able to attain the Lord. Here only the Lord, na samshaya, he is telling. And only in 2-3 places in the Gita, Krishna says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yuddhacha mai arpit mano buddhi. Mano and buddhi. Mam evashisi asamshaya. There also asamshaya is there. And then if your chitta is not able to fix, then the internal sense organ, then mat karma. You do actions. Madartam api karmani. For whom? Madartam. Not for anything else. Then you will attain what? Perfection. So it's like that. From here, you will have to go up here and then up here. And then there is a last. So it's a whole ladder of love, which is a series of classes which we need to discuss to understand this whole yoga ladder, what Krishna is explaining. I hope it is a little bit clear, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Fine. Okay, so we'll stop here. Shri Bhakti Tattva Vivek ki Jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki Jai, Srila